Hi everyone, I'm going to be walking you through this narrative therapy exercise called the Tree of Life. So starting with the roots, these are made up of life events that the client has experienced. They can be written in chronological order to make up a timeline. They can include traumatic events, positive memories, achievements, significant events, and these will become the base of the tree. You really want to have the client think about changes in their narrative or how that's affected their life. The client can do the writing or the counselor can do the writing. Some people may not want to because they don't think their handwriting looks good. It's really up to them, but it could be really empowering if the client does it themselves. So moving on to the trunk of the tree, this is going to be made up by the client's coping skills. So these are ways that the client copes or deals with the things that goes on in their life, and this can include healthy coping skills, unhealthy coping skills, and this can also be an opportunity for the therapist or counselor to recommend coping skills to the client that they haven't thought of or they weren't aware of, with their permission, of course. Next up is making the ground. So the ground represents what is currently happening in the client's life. It could represent day-to-day things that the person does, such as their hobbies or interests, even friends that they see on a regular basis. And it can also include symptoms of their mental health struggles or difficulties that they're having. So this is also an opportunity for the counselor to incorporate elements of cognitive behavioral therapy and helping the client become aware of loops or cycles that they're stuck in and how that affects their day-to-day life. Depending on how you do this exercise, you could do the roots and then the ground and then move on to the trunk or coping skills, but either way is fine. So moving up the tree, this is where you would have the client highlight some positive qualities about themselves. So they'd write their name in the middle, and then around that they would identify some positive attributes about themselves, positive qualities or traits and things like that. Some clients might struggle with this and need help with this section, but this is where you would help them identify things like they're very kind, or they're very generous, or they're very empathetic, they're resilient, things like that. Things that the client can be proud of or feel good about would be expressed here. After that, you would move on to the branches part of this tree of life. So the branches represent the client's goals, their hopes, their dreams. These can be long-term, they can also be short-term, they can be related to therapy, or they can also be unrelated to therapy. It's really up to the client. And some clients may also struggle with this section, so you could also use some motivational interviewing. So after your client has put their branches, here's where they would add their leaves. And these leaves represent important people in the client's lives or people that are significant to them. So these could be family members, friends, they could be teachers, colleagues, important figures. These people could be alive, they could have passed away. They could be a celebrity, a YouTuber, it could be a pet, it could be someone they had a relationship with, it could be a significant other or ex-significant other. They could have been someone that was harmful to the client or helpful to the client. It's really up to whatever they decide, but the most important thing for the therapist to do is to talk about the client's relationship with these people. And in the leaves, the client would write the person or pet or name in the leaf. After that, the client can use a flower or fruit or whatever they like to represent or signify gifts. So these could be material gifts, they could be intangible gifts, such as maybe they got their mom's sense of humor or their dad's soft temperament or their grandma's smile. Things that they've been given that they can identify and acknowledge that are important to them. So it's really up to the client, again, to see what they want to include. Now that the tree is done, here's where you would help the client identify potential storms in their lives or things that could be a threat to their tree. So these could be things that might come up in the near future that would be difficult for them to handle, and you can help the client create a plan for coping with these things. Now that the tree is done, you can have the client go back in and add whatever they want to or color in different parts of their tree. But I think this is a super fun exercise for clients that have a creative side, or even those who might not feel like they have a creative side. It's really simple. It's great because it can be used for individual or group therapy, and it can also be used for a variety of ages. So this is a tree of life.